How's it? Welcome back to the channel. So I recently had the opportunity to try DMT for the first time. This is actually like several months ago by now. But thought I'd come on here and share some of my thoughts with it. I have covered DMT in the past in previous videos, although of course having not taken it, it wasn't from that perspective. Most of those videos were kind of targeted at, Joe Rogan's kind of perspective or view on it, where he thinks you could, potentially be leaving yourself and going to some parallel DMT dimension, which, could be true. I mean, it can't really be proven or disproven at the moment, but my point of view on it is, more than likely it sounds like a dreaming state to me, although a very peak pumped up dreaming state because, you're intaking all this external DMT. But nonetheless, I was always more along the lines of you're probably just inside your head somewhere in some different type of dream realm than, really leaving and going to another dimension outside of yourself. But that's beside the point. That's not what I'm here to talk about. What I'm here to talk about is my actual experience with it. So one of the things that I thought was really neat is just how fast it kicked in, but you could still feel the progression of it. Oh, and I should say this too. I didn't take enough to like full on blast off and leave reality, like I'm sure, Joe Rogan and the others talk about, where they took more than I took. It wasn't for a lack of trying. I just didn't have my hands on enough to get to that level. But anyway, the quick pace of the visuals picking up and even had a strong like body high associated with it. Thought that was really neat, but it was still a progression. It wasn't like instant. You could feel it coming on quickly, but you can also feel it like progressively build. And so the visuals, the closest thing I can compare it to personally in my own experience would be like a peak like shroom experience, although it was definitely different than that. Like the visuals I was getting was like I was seeing these flowing tiny like skinny rivers, just a whole ton of them, like filling my whole vision, but they're being like overlaid over like the backdrop of whatever I was looking at, which most of the time was me staring at the ceiling. And also like these little rivers were like full of tiny like geometric shapes, which was kind of neat. I also noticed that I could intensify the strength of those visuals by doing what I've covered in previous videos and called like, like my active staring technique. It's also kind of like just having a soft gaze, not unlike what you would do with these old school, like, magic eye books, or also similar to if you were looking at, say, like a random pattern in a tree bark, and then all of a sudden a face pops out in it, right? So kind of like having that type of vision seemed to strengthen and intensify the rivers of streaming and stuff that I was seeing. Let's see what else. It did also seem to, well, it did work whether my eyes were open or closed, although it was stronger if my eyes were open than when they were closed. But it was almost like when my eyes were open, I was having two different types of vision that were just like overlaid over each other, where like the rivers and flowing geometric shapes I was seeing was like coming from this soft gaze, this active staring technique I was using. But that was like overlaid over the backdrop of my regular vision, seeing most of the time the ceiling. It did also work with my eyes closed, and it ended up transitioning specifically to that, because just as I was kind of sitting in the experience, it just felt more comfortable for me to lay back and close my eyes, which was neat because at that point it was very similar. I was using like the same mental muscles, it felt like, that I would be using for a hypnagogic meditation, which of course I've covered a ton on my channel. If you've been following me for a while, that's like, almost like half my freaking content kind of. But so it's a state that I'm very comfortable with and used to. So I was playing in that space, but then actually what ended up happening is I ended up just straight up falling asleep at some point, right? Where I lost my lucid awareness and then I just fell asleep normal style. And the cool part about that was when I woke up like, 30, 40 minutes later, I felt basically totally fine and normal. Unlike with shrooms, where like, for me, sometimes I can get a really long, like kind of downing, dulling effect feeling after taking it. Or for this, it was like, by the time I woke up, I felt pretty good. And then several hours later, felt totally normal. So that was a big bonus to it. I got some other things written here. Oh, actually, no, I don't. That is mostly it. So yeah, it was a very cool experience. One that I would definitely like to try again at a higher dose. It was kind of nice taking that small dose because it gave me an opportunity to kind of like dip my toes in before going full blast. So if I ever do get a chance to run it back again and go at a higher dose, even at the same level dose, if I ever do get a chance to try it again, I'll definitely come back and share some more thoughts on it. Ah, you made that for me?
Yeah, that means that's the worm.
Ah, I like it. I'll put it on the door after this, all right?